It is absolutely insane that just off of the heels of Final Fantasy XVI's release, we are already headed into the next major Final Fantasy game. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is coming next winter, which means it's launching sometime between late December and mid-January, though more than likely somewhere between those two extremes. And trust me when I say you are going to want to hit that subscribe button, because today's update might give us a clue on when we're going to see Cid and Vincent Valentine's reveal. Last night on Twitter, X, Square Enix revealed that Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis would be launching on September 7th. Now, Ever Crisis is a game that I got to spend time with in the closed beta, and I was pretty surprised by it. While absolutely it is a gacha, it's still one of the more enjoyable ones, and it allows you to re-experience the entire story of the compilation of Final Fantasy VII, including the original game. Now, what's really notable about FF7 Ever Crisis is that it uses the models from Final Fantasy VII Remake in its battles. Now, yes, these models are downscaled, and they're running on Unity, so they look a little bit different than how they look in Unreal. However, it's all derived from the same assets that are used in FF7 Remake. But this alone raises some serious questions. Are we going to be seeing these characters in Ever Crisis before we actually see them in the main Final Fantasy VII Rebirth? And according to RPG site, Square Enix PR told them, quote, "The original Final Fantasy VII story content will be available in its entirety at launch. If the entirety of Ever Crisis, a game that uses assets from the main remake, is going to have the entirety of OG available at launch, would that not imply that we're going to see Cid Highwind, Vincent Valentine, and the battle models for many other enemies and characters way ahead of time?" This also really makes you wonder, how far does Rebirth actually go up to if all of these assets are prepared? Of course, it would also imply that a lot of Part 3's assets are already ready to go. This is kind of huge, as it means that we may get a peek at all of this stuff way ahead of time. The only problem is, I would imagine that Square would want to reveal Vincent and Cid not in a mobile game, but in a trailer. But I mean, that would imply that some kind of trailer is coming before September 7th, right? Well, it's really hard for me to imagine a trailer coming before the Tokyo Game Show, with TGS taking place September 21st through September 24th. So this is all happening a couple of weeks before TGS. Now, if this is the case, it is somewhat disappointing to me, as it kind of feels like it steals a little bit of thunder away from the main remake. You know, I don't want my first encounter with HD Cid and HD Vincent, those characters and the locations of the battle backgrounds, to be revealed through the mobile game first. Yes, it is going to look tremendously better in Rebirth, but it is repurposed versions of the exact same assets. And so hypothetically, to see those reveals happen first in a mobile game, not really the most exciting way of doing things. And if indeed all the chapters are going to be there day one for the OG game, it does kind of make you wonder, does this imply some sort of story deviation that is quite massive in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth? Of course, it's an extremely touchy subject, but one I think is impossible to avoid when talking about the game. I think it's fairly obvious that Ever Crisis intends to be a catch-up tool to allow everyone to be familiar with the compilation of Final Fantasy VII, either to refresh yourself or to dive into it for the very first time. And I think covering the entirety of the OG game, I think this is all to get everyone on the same page, so they can fully process what's to come, which is going to have many surprises. But that's just my thoughts on it, and I'm sure that you have your own, so please let me know in the comments below. Shout out to Ultima Weapon 2000 and the rest of the Ultima community.